British General John Burgoyne had an excellent plan to win the Revolutionary War. He arranged everything in England. The plan was approved by King George III in January 1777. Burgoyne would march his army south from Montreal, Canada, along the Hudson River. Link up with the forces of British General Sir William Howe, who was in New York City, and those of Lieutenant Colonel Barry St. Leger, who was in Fort Oswego. All three armies were to converge on Albany, New York. This move, along with the naval blockade, would cut out the heart of the rebellion, the northern colonies, and isolate these colonies from the rest of America. And if that happened, General George Washington would likely have to give up the fight for American independence.
Burgoyne had a mixed force of about 8,000 troops, consisting of 3,800 British and 3,000 German mercenaries, called Hessians. The rest of his army was composed of Canadians, Tories and Indians. He had a lot of cannons, 138 in all. There were hundreds of wagons and pushcarts, some of which were filled with vital supplies, and some were filled with not so vital supplies. British generals usually liked to take their luxuries along with them. In addition, about 1,000 women and children accompanied the army south. The few roads that did exist in upstate New York were hardly more than trails. The march was made even more difficult because the Americans felled trees across the path, broke dams to create swamps, and destroyed bridges, all in an effort to slow the progress of the British Army.
Oh, they can slow me down, but they can't stop me.
The plan that had looked so good in the King's Palace back in January did not look so good by August in the vast wooded wilderness of upstate New York. American General Benedict Arnold was able to trick St. Leger's forces into turning back to Fort Oswego at Fort Stanwix. Meanwhile, General Howe saw an opportunity to capture Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia was the American capital where Congress met. Howe, after getting approval from the British government, marched his army south, leaving only a small force to hold New York City. Though Burgoyne did not realize it yet, he was all on his own.
Burgoyne did realize that his army needed a lot more horses. One of his German units, the Brunswick Dragoons, had no horses at all. These 200 trained horsemen were intended to ride. They had therefore been issued the sort of equipment that cavalry would normally get, including sabers and carbines, and boots that weighed 8 pounds apiece. Burgoyne believed the solution was a raid on the town of Bennington, Vermont. His scouts informed him that there was a large stockpile of supplies collected there. He ordered Oberstleutnant Friedrich Baum, who spoke no English, to depart with 800 men, mostly Hessians, His orders were to take all the horses, cattle, food, and anything else of value. In addition, Baum and his men were to collect taxes and spread the false rumor that this detachment was the advance guard of Burgoyne's army and that their intention was to march to Boston.
The Americans had no trouble tracking the British Army's progress, as Burgoyne could only march 1 mile a day. Every move was being watched and reported. Burgoyne sent Baum, a commander who could not speak English, on a complex mission into an area full of hostile Americans. It was risky. American Colonel John Stark was a highly experienced but highly independent officer. He was a hero at Bunker Hill, but when he did not receive a promotion to become a general, he resigned from the Continental Army and went home to New Hampshire. With a large British army plodding southward along the Hudson River, alarm spread throughout Massachusetts, Vermont, New York, and New Hampshire. Colonel Stark decided to re-enter the fight.